Okay, a little bit better now. Okay, we start. Hello, everybody. My story, very normal people. Today, we have a writer of 3 books. Her name is Debbi Milam. So, she came in our show because she's going to speak for something very important. And before we start speaking, let her welcome. Welcome, Debbi.
Hi, Arthur. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's all our pleasure, and so we're looking forward to start to talk about 3 main things that you have in your books that you talk in your books, right? So,
Yes.
so but before we go on that one, we would like to know a little bit who is Debbi,
Who am I?
right?
Number one, I'm a precious child of God.
Mhm.
I am a wife of 31 years to an extraordinary husband, a mother of 2 adult children, grandma to 2 of the most delicious grandbabies in the world. Also an occupational therapist, a resiliency coach, a Bible study leader, and an author. I've been through catastrophic challenges
Mhm.
and been to the mountaintop of the most beautiful blessings and everything in between in the human experience. So everything that I share in my book comes out of my own journey. And I feel like it's so important, especially now, the last 2 years with COVID and the many challenges that we've faced around the world, that it's so important to be honest and authentic, because we're all human and so many of us are experiencing, although they may have different circumstances, but similar feelings in this season of uncertainty. So all the books were birthed out of pretty hard seasons. And what I learned during those about God, about grace, about love, about well-being in the middle of chronic and sometimes catastrophic health issues, that those things can still be there. So that's what I want to share with your listeners today, to number one, let them feel like they're not alone in what they're experiencing. But number two, to instill hope and inspire them that they're more than their feelings, they're more than their circumstances, they're more than the things they've been through. But there's a deeper story, there's a deeper well within them, where grace lives, where love lives, where peace lives, where well-being lives, and where resiliency lives. And never has there been a time in history where we're getting to see our resilience tested like it is these last 2 years.
Exactly.
But if you woke up this morning, you're resilient. Resilient doesn't have to be on top of a mountain vibrato, that, yes, I did it. Resilient can be sitting on the couch crying. You got out of bed. You put one foot in front of the other. And I think for so many people, they judge themselves when they're having a hard day, that if I was only stronger, if I was only more resilient, if I didn't have all these emotions, then I'd be okay. Well, what I want to share today is you're okay right in the middle of it.
Yes, yes. So let's start with the first one, which is grace.
Yeah.
So can you please define grace, how you understand it in, or how do you how you have it in your dictionary, let's say?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, grace is that inexplainable, indescribable gift that God gives us to be carried through things that we thought we would never, ever, ever get through. The Bible defines grace as the forgiveness of our sin, but I see it as that and so much more. The grace of God is what carries us through those things that we thought we would never, ever get through, but somehow we did. The grace is in a moment when you don't know what to do, all of a sudden you have an insight and it's like, wait, I do know what to do. Mm-hmm. Grace is the ability to see yourself and your loved ones as the true essence of who they are, not defined by their behavior, their circumstances, their diagnoses, but who they really are inside. And grace is what carries me through. You know, the last 2 years, I faced my mortality 7 times. And everything from started just as a surgery that was a minor surgery. It then led to finding like dead tissue in the part of my knee that was operated on. I became septic. I then was diagnosed with babesiosis, which is like malaria. The treatment then caused severe life-threatening digestive infection. And then I got COVID, all within 4 months. And grace allowed me to take my next breath when there was no air in my lungs. Grace is what, in those moments when I was facing mortality, there was no fear. Grace was the love my husband has for me in the middle of watching his wife go through catastrophic health issues, and he could be strong. Grace was the right nurses showing up just when I needed them, with the exact personality that I needed, skill set I needed, but that I was there to bless them too. That was grace.
I have a
grace
question.
Was, go
Sorry
ahead.
for interrupting you. Yeah. So it's like when somebody believes in God and he suffers, does it have any meaning why we suffer?
Oh, yeah. And that, you know, it's such a great question because for me too, you know, I thought, all right, if I get on a spiritual path, if I have a relationship with Christ, if I have the right relationship with God, everything's going to be okay.
Okay.
And, you know, or there's a formula how not to suffer. And I tried to find it like my whole life, the formula. And the formulas helped. But what I saw in this season was God sometimes allows things because he knows the good that can come out of it. What I saw in this journey was and I did, there were moments I'd fall into self-pity and why me? I'm a good person. Why are these terrible things happening? And I never got peace or good answers from the why me. But when I changed the question, and this is where for me the intimacy with God came, I would cry out to God a lot. I would have conversations and dialogues. But when I would ask, Lord, what is your purpose in this? What's the gift in this? And in the hardest season we've ever faced physically, I got to write 2 books in the middle of that season. I couldn't even hold a glass, but I would record stories into my phone and my assistant would type it. The purpose was not about me, but to show other people that in the middle of their hardest things, there was a God of love who could comfort them, who could carry them, who could guide them. That was number one. The other thing I got to see was my own resiliency. You know, I had a fear of death for so long, like a lot of people do. And when I actually faced my mortality, there was a peace. There was something beautiful. There was a knowing that even though my loved ones would grieve, they would be okay. So I got to see that. I also got to be in situations where I could bless other people. So did I want to go through all these different health tests and health challenges? Absolutely not. But every time I would have to go for a test, there'd be somebody worse off than me sitting next to me, and I'd have an opportunity to pray for them, encourage them, give them hope.
That is
And then I got to see there was a purpose in it, that it wasn't about me, and how many of these marvelous stories, and I tell a lot of these stories in my newest book, Miracles in the Middle, about, sitting, getting like chemotherapy into my arms to like boost my immune system, and sitting with other people who are so much worse off that we got to pray for and love on and encourage. So when I look at things in the why me, I'll see a whole lot of what's wrong with me. I don't deserve to be healthy. Those little voices in your head that mean nothing. But if I look in the direction of where's the gift, where's the purpose, that's when I feel God's strength and power come through that carries me through.
I've heard this from many believers as well. They say, okay, in the time that I was suffering, I didn't understand why. And they did the same. They asked God, why? I'm trying to do my best, and in one moment, they understood that that wasn't just for them.
Yeah.
It was also for other people. Yeah.
So much so. And I loved what you just shared about in a moment. Because at all times, no matter how whirly, swirly our brain gets and how emotional we can get, we are always one thought away from peace, one thought away from insight, one thought away from wisdom, one thought away from grace. It's right there. Exactly. It's right there.
Also, you speak about love. Love is the word that is, I don't know, you use it. Books are written about that. Oh, people say, I love you every day. It's one of the words that you use it a lot, apart from COVID now. Lately has been COVID. But we speak about love. Most of our lives is like characteristic. Let's say love is one of the words that we use in our dictionaries. Some maybe they have forgotten about that, but anyway. So, what do you have about love to say to us?
Oh, I love that question.
Okay, that's a good one. You see?
For me, love is the foundation of everything. And love is not the airy fairy tale that we all strive for, want for, desire for. Love is messy. Love is real. Like real love is messy. It's not always pretty. It's not always comfortable. It's not always happy and joyful. For me, God is love. And each and every morning when I wake up, I sit in the presence of that love. And I pour out my heart, whatever's on my heart. And I ask God to fill me with his love so I can then love in the way he loves. I saw so much love in these seasons and such a different level of love. My love for others before was translated into doing for others. Making sure things were taken care of, the gifts, making sure everybody was okay. Well, when I got sick, I couldn't do any of that anymore. And one morning, and I was sitting and I was very, very emotional that I couldn't do the things that I felt were loving things for people. And I remember I heard in the quiet of my heart, there's not one more thing you need to do to be loved or to love. And it was just like, whoa, from a perpetual overdoer, that it was very settling. And I got to see love poured out in ways I never have before. And for anyone who's going through these hard times alone, I am so, so, so sorry. But what I got to see in this season were people I hadn't seen in 10 years or heard from would text me and say, is something going on? I just felt in my heart that something's not right with you. That was love, kind of tapping them on the shoulder, reminding them that something was wrong with me. to have my husband, it was just our 31st anniversary, and his anniversary card was about these last 2 years and what he saw in me that he had never seen before and how it changed him for the better. That's love. To see the love of knowing that when my children would come over and have a hard time with me being sick, that was their way of expressing love too. Would I have wanted them to be like fine with everything? Yeah, but they weren't. You know, it was hard. Love is seeing the reasons why people behave in the way they behave. You know, it's so easy to slip into judgment of, why did he do this? What's wrong with him? You know, if he only did this, if he only did that. And love is, you know, everybody's doing the best they can at the level of thinking they have in that moment. And that can change at any moment. And I think we can look at that both in the internal family structure, but as well as around the world right now. I mean, we're all seeing some crazy things in our governments, in politics, in medicine, in science, and a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But that remembrance that everybody's doing the best they can right now at the level of thinking they have in this moment. And that sometimes the greatest gift of love you can give somebody is just sitting with them when they're having a hard time. Not trying to fix it, but I'm here. I see that you're struggling. I love you. And sometimes that's enough. You know, I think we've gone, at least in the States, you know, there was such a huge movement in positivity and self-help that we try to cheer people up, get them out of feeling what they're feeling, making sure they're okay, giving them the strategies and the solutions. It didn't work. But real love can sit with somebody when they're crying. And you can sit with them and say, you know what, I'm here. It's okay. Get it out. It's going to pass. And knowing that for ourselves, that whether we're struggling, our loved ones are struggling, our governments are struggling, that at any moment that could shift. Because who they really are inside is peace, love, resiliency, well-being. That gets covered up by thinking. That gets covered up by behaviors. And do they hurt sometimes? Oh, yeah. You know, no one ever said, it was kind of a myth that it was supposed to be easy. You know, if you did this and you did this and you did this, it would be an easy life. That's kind of a myth, because reality is there's ups and there's downs. Mm-hmm. There's good times, there's bad times, there's joy, there's sorrow, there's grief, there's love. You know, and I kind of look at it like a rainbow. If a rainbow was all red, it'd be kind of cool, but it wouldn't be as beautiful. The beauty is in all those contrasts that are there. You know, and as we learn to embrace the fullness of our human experience and love each other while everyone else is being human too, it just makes it more graceful. And it's a different type of love.
Okay. For love, nobody can go to the end, to the deepest. To speak about love, nobody will get into that, right?
Yeah.
And as we know, the biggest love that people have had is God's love. It's
100.
okay? But that's what I'm saying. We don't go on that, okay? We just keep it on this level, okay?
It is so true about that, because that's an indescribable love.
Exactly.
That is the most unconditional love there ever was, ever will be. And, you know, I often ask in the middle of like a hard situation with someone, Lord, just show me how to love the way you love. Give me the words that would help this person feel your love right now? You know, so what you said is the most magnificent truth about love. Yeah.
I've read the verse, which I really like it, which says, "Thanks be to God for His unspeakable love."
Oh, yes.
I finished with that one, because anytime I try to express love, especially God's love, it's like no words. Don't even try.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Just try to enjoy that. That's all. Okay.
I a couple of years ago, I had read a book. It was a marvelous book by an author called Anne Voskamp, and it was called A Thousand Gifts. And she said in there that every time you see something you're grateful for, it's another way God is showing you his love. And I hooked into that and went on these gratitude hunts where I would just look for beauty and look for things that would amaze me and then say, thank you, God. And felt his love so deeply in that, and when you look at the natural world and how many different colors and shapes and shades of flowers there are, and just butterflies and the magnificence of trees, or a baby laughing, those are all these little miracles of God's love. And what a beautiful thing. And even tears, even tears, how we're designed. We're designed so perfectly that when we're overwhelmed, tears just come, and think, well, where do they come from? How do they turn on? But they do. And that's how God designed us with his love, to do that perfectly.
Okay. As I said, we cannot stop with that. We cannot go to deepness, okay? No depth. Okay. So, what about wellness? You speak also about wellness. And in your life, you haven't been well.
I have not.
Sorry, just
Yeah, and
so
that's what's so.
how do you match them together?
Yeah. So what I saw in this season of so much physical unwellness was that I was still well inside. The Debbi that's here, alive, breathing, talking to you right now, even though I need a little help from the oxygen, there is a well-being inside of me that's untouched by the diseases, by the diagnoses. When I faced my mortality, there was a well-being inside of me that kept rising back up again. And one day in particular, I remember it so well. We have a little place at the ocean, and I was sitting on the balcony. It was a gorgeous day. There were little dolphins jumping. The water was gorgeous. And I was so just immersed in the beauty. And all of a sudden, I felt a little lightheaded. And I took my oxygen, and this was before I was on 24-hour oxygen. And I watched my oxygen rate literally dropping by the minute. And I just said, is this what happens when I draw my last breath? And then I watched my heart rate do the same thing. God, is this what happens when my heart stops? And what I got to see was that I was not my body, if that makes sense. The who I was, the soul in me, the spirit in me. In Hebrew, it's the neshama. That part of me that God breathed life into was not my physical body. That part was completely well, regardless of all the other things that were going on. And, thanks to God, I went, I probably should put my oxygen on. I probably should call the doctor. So I knew what to do without going into fear and crisis. And it wasn't anything I did. It wasn't like there's 3 steps to do if you're going to die to have a peaceful existence in this. It just kind of rose up when I remembered that who I was not defined by the physical. So at the beginning of my career, I worked on a spinal cord injury unit, and I worked with high quadriplegics who are paralyzed from the chest down. And I saw more health and vitality in these humans than some able-bodied people, because they knew that they were not their body anymore, and that there was a part of them that was untouched by the spinal cord injury. And I watched, some of them are now on board of trustees of universities, running philanthropies. Other ones became pastors and gospel singers. They're paralyzed from the neck down. How can you sing? But they were able to record. So I think for me, it was very easy. And for years, I would get hooked into, there's something wrong with me. What's the disease? How do we cure it? How do I not have this experience? And what I saw in this season was, oh, yes, I want to be well. But God, direct my steps to what my next right step is. But to always remember that no matter what I faced, I lived through it. That there was a strength in me and the strength from God through me that allowed me to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And by God's grace, this first month, we're finally finding treatments that are working. I'm having more well-being, and I'm so grateful for that, and the hope that it can continue, and that, but with no expectation. Would I love to get back to the physical capacity I had before all of this? Absolutely. Do I know what direction this is going to go in? Not at all. But what I know as truth is who God created me to be inside of me. And I know this for every human. This is not just for me because I have a relationship with God or I did this. Every human. You're not your diagnoses, not your circumstances. You're not the things that you've done or the things others have done to you. Who you are is so vibrantly alive and able to move through the ups and the downs of life.
Okay, because also the time is going to the end. I really do appreciate for all the explanation that you gave. And I will give you again the word. What do you have to say? Something to all of our audience, people that are listening to you.
God loves you so much. And it's not a God that's found in, for me, doing this right, doing that right, making sure, you're at church every weekend. All those things are beautiful. But it's relationship. It's relationship with God. And it's as simple as having a conversation with your best friend, and that you are so loved in whatever it is you're experiencing right now. You have the resiliency, the wisdom, the peace, the well-being to move through it, to put one foot in front of the other, to take one right step after another, to make mistakes, to try again. And that we're all okay right in the middle of anything we're experiencing.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you very much, and may God bless you, and maybe you will be, may God heal you in the
Yes.
way He knows thoroughly.
Thank you so much. This was a joy to meet you, a joy to be on the show, and God bless you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So officially finished.